Homebrew. If you're new to Dungeons & Dragons, you're probably wondering, hey, what is homebrew? Well, homebrew is essentially house rules. If you ever played Monopoly, it's like going on the free parking space and getting the entire jackpot. That's not necessarily a official rule, but it's one people like to use. And that is exactly what homebrew is an unofficial rule, or class, or subclass, or all these other things that your DM prefers to use in their specific setting. And homebrew is the life of Dungeons & Dragons. Sure, you can play by the rules and nothing but the rules, but why not add in a little bit of something new, something a little spicy, something a little strange? And this video is to just discuss homebrew, to give reasons why you'd want to use it, and when to use it and when not to use it. Because the reality is, many people like to use many different kinds of homebrew. Some people want entire classes that are completely made from the ground up, or subclasses, or races, or backgrounds, or other rules and systems, like new magic systems. And finding the one that you want to use is important, because maybe you don't like all these crazy, wacky homebrew classes, but you do like the homebrew jumping rules. Why use homebrew is the question that we're all asking here. And the answer to that question, besides why not, is you are looking for something the game itself, Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, does not have built in already. Perhaps, maybe, you want to play a very strange lightning wizard where everything is just lightning. But there's no subclass for that. Subclasses are kind of weird, actually. They're just like schools of magic. They're kind of strange. But perhaps you want to play just pure lightning wizard. That's all you want to go for. Sure, you could play a evocation wizard. But where's the fun in that? Where's the fun in that? Why not make a lightning subclass where everything is just lightning, a little bit of thunder? And this goes for a lot of things, like just perhaps you want to play a character, or your player wants to play a character that they can't really make with the official set of rules. So making a subclass for them to kind of play things out might be a fun way to just spice up your world. And this can go for many other things outside of classes and subclasses or even races. Perhaps you just want a unique background, or just you want to change a rule because your players, or perhaps just yourself, don't really like how it's officially ruled, if it even is at all. Now, I'm sure you're hearing all this and you're like, wow, that sounds great. I want to make my own homebrew. Here comes the big worry of anyone who makes homebrew, and especially for the Dungeon Master. Balance! Balance is an incredibly important aspect for fun in Dungeons & Dragons, unless you just love complete anarchy. So, homebrew is one of those things that you really have to be careful about balancing when you make it. What this means is, you don't want to make a homebrew subclass or even a class that does 1 trillion damage in one turn, or you don't want to make a class that doesn't do anything at all. Hitting that balance of fun and not ending the world or doing absolutely nothing is a very hard task to do, and doing it takes a lot of experience and know-how about the game already. If you intend on making your own homebrew, I recommend just looking at the official classes as they are, especially the newer ones from the later books, because they're a little more wacky and maybe a little more in line with what you're thinking. But if you're trying to go for something simple, go ahead and just look at the stock subclasses like Thief Rogue or Berserker Barbarian. Do not look at Berserker Barbarian. What were they thinking? But all in all, just make sure that your homebrew is balanced before bringing it to your DM, or if you are the DM, make sure that it works for your world, that it's not going to make all of your bosses and big bad evil guys completely irrelevant. It's not going to make the players feel like they are irrelevant as well. Now, a couple of homebrew things I can recommend that you try out, because it's just fun to try things out. Maybe you haven't thought about it, or you have been thinking about it, but you're on the edge on whether or not to do it. I recommend trying a spell slot system that isn't spell slot. Try using mana. Wow! It's like from every other game that you've ever played. Now, if you've played a game with mana before, you kind of know where this is going. Mana is a large pool of energy that you pull from when you cast a spell. And in a Dungeons & Dragons setting, this might seem a little strange because, you're so used to the spell slots. Like, you can cast 4 level 1s, 4 level 2s, or is it 3 level 2s? It's something like that, but you get the idea. It's that you are very limited in what section of spell you can cast. And when you just kind of melt that all together and make it a pool of points, it changes things a little bit. Now, your immediate worry upon hearing this is, oh no, my players are going to cast a million level 9 spells over and over again. I can't do anything about it. Well, there are a couple of spell point mana systems out there that have thought of this. It's like, sure, your player can cast maybe a couple more level 9 spells than usual, but then that's it. They can't cast anything else except for their cantrips. So it does, in the end, balance itself out, and you don't really have to worry about the player abusing it. And at the end of the day, if your player does find a really weird way to abuse it, you're the dungeon master, hopefully, and you can say, hey, stop that. Which leads me to one of the most important things about homebrew, and my kind of closing remark here. If your player brings homebrew that initially sounded very good, or perhaps your dungeon master has homebrew that sounds pretty good, but, through playing the campaign or the one-shot, you're like, hey, this isn't fun, this isn't good, maybe it's overpowered, underpowered, or just strange, it doesn't fit with the overall feeling of the campaign. Communication. Communication is extremely important with these sort of things, because if you don't communicate, no one's going to know that you don't like something. If you find something unbalanced or unfun or not useful, you should definitely speak up about it. Whether you are the player or the dungeon master, having a good time is the most important thing for Dungeons & Dragons. You can always rebalance homebrew. After all, you are probably the one who made it, or perhaps it's just a friend who made it, and you can talk over it and say, hey, maybe we should change how much damage this does, or perhaps how much of this resource this generic item consumes. In conclusion, homebrew is a fun thing that you can sprinkle into just about any situation in Dungeons & Dragons. Almost every dungeon master does a little bit of it, even if it is like an improv thing on the fly. And you should just enjoy it. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy whatever you make. But if something turns out a little bad, you can always go back and fix it. That's something I try to get across in all of my videos, is nothing is absolutely horrible and stuck in its ways unless you make it so. So communication and making sure things are as fun as they can be is the most important thing for homebrew and Dungeons & Dragons overall. This video is probably a little shorter, but I think I got my point across. Homebrew is just cool. I love homebrew. I've made a couple of my own subclasses. They're awesome. So, I hope you have a good day, a good night, a good evening, a good 4th of July if I get this out by then. Have a good day. Adios.